Transmute is really about the reimagination of your music to have the freedom to perform exactly the way you've dreamed of. In this journey, you are going to be reimagining your songs from the studio and creating a captivating performance with it. We will be conceptualizing your show, designing your rig, and putting it all together to create a show-ready project in just 8 weeks.
The main reason that I was even able to take advantage of this course is that it's fully online.
It'll definitely push you, and it'll push you out of your comfort zone.
Throughout the program, I will be providing you with inspiration as you learn the tools and techniques to level up your live show. This is for you if you want to take control of your career and gain a newfound sense of creative freedom.
I wanted to have a show that I could do myself, and I wanted it to be full and cool and an experience. I wanted to add visuals and bring the productions to life.
I'm so excited for you to join the Transmute Accelerator and start this journey with me. Transmute Your Artistry. So thankful that you all are here with us today. It's nice to see you again, see your screen names. If you're here, please type in the chat where you're from and what you're most excited about today. Could be about Transmute Your Artistry, could be about some music that you're making, it could be about some chocolate that you're eating. I know we like chocolate. Thank you so much for being here. I'm beyond honored to have our special guest today. But before I introduce our special guest, I just wanted to introduce myself. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Laura Escade, and I'm an artist, an entrepreneur, and live show designer. And my passion is live performance and pushing the boundaries of live performance through technology and consciousness and integrating all of the things together. So this program this week is a celebration of my Transmute Accelerator program, which starts in September, and it is an 8-week journey to develop your live performance and your live show and your live streams. So I'll be talking more about that at the end of the program today. So I'm just curious, those of you that are out there, and I see some of you coming in, I see some transmutants. Transmutants are what we call folks that have been in the Transmute program or are currently in our mastermind program called the Transmute Society. So I see a bunch of y'all in the chat. Nice to see you. I see a few of Master Trackians have completed my Master Track program with my company Electronic Creatives. I see a lot of friends here in the chat. I see a lot of folks from the Transmute community in the chat. If you aren't in our Facebook community, definitely pop over, answer the 3 questions, and join us because we're doing a lot of nerdy live performance stuff in there, and I'm going live once a week and showing my setup, so it's a lot of fun. Wow, just thank you so much for all the support. I'm seeing amazing a few people from Sicily. Shout out Ricardo. He's going to be doing a presentation in Transmute 4.0 in September. Wow, just so many beautiful folks here. Shout out Ralph. Ralph just applied for Transmute. We hope to have you in the program. So many beautiful faces. Daniela from Miami and Stephen from Miami, both transmutants, and Stephen is going to be a teaching assistant in the next Transmute. We're very excited for him to share his knowledge with everyone. I see Jeff. Hi, Jeff. I know you're a fan of Suzanne, so glad that you're here. And yeah, lots of amazing folks in the chat. So now that we kind of have gathered a little bit, I just wanted to talk about, first of all, the contest, Transmute from Home. We've got prizes from Universal Audio, Eventide, Native Instruments, Output, Artiphon. So if you don't know about the contest, you should have gotten information in your email if you signed up for this event. Hopefully you sign up for the event. It's on, all the info is on my website, as well as when you sign up for Transmute Your Artistry, you get all the rundown, all the details on what the contest entails. But basically you need to submit a 1 to 5 minute video on Instagram, tag me, all the information is on the email, but basically just bring your best live performance and you could win some of these prizes. We have 3 prizes, 3 tiers of prizes. So grand prize winner, second place, and third place. And we will be announcing the winners on September 9th, and submissions are due on September 4th. So we've had a lot of amazing submissions already, and I can't wait to see the rest of you, what you bring to the table. Also, we've got our homework, the Transmute Morning Journal. So I would love to know if you have the journal or if you've worked at the journal. Today the theme is EMBODY. And so in the journal, I asked you to put on a favorite song, stand up, feel your feet on the ground, stretch your arms, and wiggle your body. So do some intuitive movement to music and release any judgment about how you look. So I'm just curious, did anyone get a chance to do this morning? Did anyone get a chance to kind of, just wiggle around or maybe do some yoga? I did some yoga this morning, which was really awesome. So I'm curious if any of you did that, if you took the challenge. And another thing that I'm curious of is what are some ways that you feel like you embody the expression of your true self? So for me, I've actually been working a lot on embodiment because I feel like I have been very much in my headspace for a long time and can be very much, an overthinker, as a lot of us are. And I've been working on feeling a little bit more. I've been feeling into my music, feeling into my artistry, visualizing and more feeling from inside instead of visualizing, but at the same time visualizing what that feeling is going to be like when I'm performing, when I'm giving these presentations. So it's been really helpful for me to kind of shift from just being so, thinking and thought focused to more feeling focused, because that's not as natural for me. So I see a lot of folks in the comments. I see yoga and jog in the warm rain. Yes. Shout out Kat. Paige is saying yes. Morning dynamic meditation for EDS. What is EDS? I'm not sure what that is. Yes, big shout out to Jules Jensen from JM. Alex listened to the album Leaf during my yoga. Oh my gosh, wasn't yesterday so incredible? Jimmy was beyond yesterday. Oh, thank you, Still Monsters. I have some good questions in this journal. It's fun. Thank you so much. Michelle did some shaking. Awesome. Ralph says, I do a lot of songwriting via improv and flow. Formerly, I was very composed. Yeah, same here. I feel like I've kind of just learning about this stuff. And Kat, actually, who's in the chat, is from Transmute 3.0, and she was giving us breathwork and movement classes, which was really, really awesome, part of Transmute. And so we were doing a lot of breathwork and movement, which really helped, especially because, obviously we're going through this crazy time right now. Yes, did some boxing, morning sun, amazing. Oh, thank you for sharing that with me, Paige. I wasn't aware of that. So that was the reason why you do the yoga and the movement. Thank you. I'm glad that you are able to have that medicine. Sonia danced. Great twerk and belly dance. Oh, amazing. Oh, thank you, Alex. She needs a 365 Transmute journal. Well, I might need to make one of those. And I love this page. It's the main reason I have to adapt and elevate my live performance. I'm creating a digital persona since I can no longer perform live like I used to. Right. That's like everyone here, pretty much. Great. Well, I'm loving seeing what you're sharing. Thank you so much for doing that. A chef kiss from Lacey. Love it. Well, I really appreciate y'all, being here and sharing with me. But really, the main reason why we're here today is because of my friend Suzanne. And before I bring her onto the stream with us, I just have to talk about when I was at Ableton's Loop Conference in 2018. 18, I think. I can't remember. Yes, whenever it was in Berlin. No, 17, 16. I don't know. One of those years. No, 18 it was in LA, so it was the year before. I was going to meet my friend, Marika, at her hotel, and I was eating breakfast downstairs, just waiting for her. And, the day before, she and I had been talking about Suzanne and saying, oh, wouldn't it be so great to meet her? Just, wow, she's just so legendary. Like, just have, so much love for her and what she does, and just such an inspiration, especially as women. And so I was eating my breakfast, and I noticed this woman sitting there, and she started talking to me. We started chatting, and we became friends, and we just started, hanging out that day. So it was so incredible. So I would love to welcome Suzanne to Transmute Your Artistry, and she's going to just do a lot of amazing stuff with us today. So welcome, Suzanne.
Hello. Hi, everybody. You are amazing, Laura. The way you've just created this group of people this morning. Well, it's morning for me. I don't know where everybody else is, but it's just wonderful. I love your energy. I love your spirit, and I love, your ability to make tech warm. It really is a challenge sometimes.
It absolutely can be. Thank you, Suzanne. Just telling that story just brings me back to, just meeting you and how quickly we hit it off. And then I remember just hanging out all day. We had dinner that night. We were, and then I've been your roadie sort of a couple times, in LA when you performed, and you performed really close to me, actually, at the Descanso Gardens last year. And that was great. And so it's just an honor to have you with us. And, before we get into your presentation, I would just love to know what is a couple ways that you embody the expression of yourself and your art, and what does that mean to you?
Well, when you think of body, my passion is tennis.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, my greatest joy is just, there's something about being on that tennis court. Nobody can get to you. You're isolated. It's like a little piece of heaven. So you're there, and you're in a separate world, and you're just looking at that ball and focusing all your attention on that one point, and you are, by definition, in the moment. Mm-hmm. So I think anything that brings you, we use our bodies to focus us on reality, because our bodies live in the real world. Our minds can be any place. So I love, that. I also do yoga, but tennis is my main joy.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so I imagine during this time, tennis is actually one of those sports that you can actually play because you're not anywhere near anyone else.
Well, actually, it's very tricky. The head of the USTA came out with this phrase saying, now remember, you can kick somebody else's balls, but you can't touch them. Oh. And that was like, it has been very tricky because you're not allowed to touch,
right,
any other ball. So, we do have protocol. It's mostly singles now. Doubles is complicated. So that's how it goes. It's yeah.
Well, and you've been dealing with these fires in Northern California. For those of you watching, we've been meeting with Suzanne over the past, week and a half or something, and she's been like, hold on, I got to make sure that, the fire isn't coming this way. And it's just been terrifying, I think, right? I can't imagine.
There have been days here when, the last few days where it was hard to breathe. Oh. So I have ordered an air purifier. It hasn't come yet, but no, here's the thing. I've had the Buchla case right here, and I didn't want to have to pack it up because I'm doing this today with you. And if I had had to pack up the Buchla, it would have been a very big challenge to unpack it and put those 100 cables back in. So I have the case here ready to go. I have my my kitty cages and everything ready to go. But it's been a little distracting.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm so thankful that you didn't pack up the Buchla just for this. I'm glad that the fires have held out and you're safe and everything's safe. And it's been such a fun journey, putting this together with you. So, everyone who's in the audience, I would just love to know, where are you at in your journey with live performance? Are you mixing in quad for live performance? Would you like to learn how to mix with quad? Are you using synthesizers? Just kind of give us a feel for where you're at in your journey of live performance. So yeah, I would love to, hand it over to you, Suzanne, and to just absorb all of the beautiful, amazing information that you're going to give us today, if that's all right with you.
I'm absolutely thrilled. This is one of my favorite topics.
Yay.
Quadrophonic, yay. And I'm just so excited to just kind of dump all my, ideas about it on a willing audience because,
yes.
Let's see, in the late 60s, maybe 50 years ago when I was doing quad, nobody understood it. And now I have a really intelligent forum here for talking about the specific ideas that have evolved, over 50 years in quadrophonic. So let me just start by saying that when I got into technology, music technology, it was through the Buchla. Don Buchla is credited with having, invented one of the first analog music, electronic music instruments. And I went to work for him right when I finished graduate school, and that was in 1969, 68, 69. And no, it was 70. See, 70, so far away. And I was proselytized by him. I grew up in his world, and I took it for granted. And one of the things that we took for granted was quadrophonic. So Buchla, right from the beginning, had an interface called the 227 that was part of the 200 system. And he had a voltage-controlled placement of sound. And I grew up in this. I played quad. That was my expression. Electronic music is totally ideal for quadrophonic. It is essentially a monophonic sound. And when it can dance in space, it becomes alive. The beauty of the relationship of this electronic sound in quadrophonic space is that the space can be voltage controlled. So anybody playing an analog music instrument today has the possibility of integrating spatial movement with the actual music, with the rhythm of the music, with the dimension of the music, with the, creating illusionary spaces that enhance the meaning of the sound. I've been doing quad performances now this time around. I took about 40 years off. Quad had come and gone. In the 70s, we had quadrophonic LPs. I ran into trouble. My first concert that was booked in New York in the early 70s, I was at Avery Fisher Hall in Lincoln Center, and I automatically said, well, I need two more speakers. I need 2 speakers in the rear of the concert hall. And they said, well, we're not going to do that. Are you crazy? We don't do that. And so I said, well, if you won't give me quadrophonic, I won't play. I can't play. And it was that clear to me that there was no compromise. Quadrophonic was essential to what I did. I took a few years at that point. I started an electronic music forum just to get theaters redesigned. So it was called the Electronic Center for New Music. And I had on my board a lot of the speaker companies. And the idea was that Avery Fisher Hall was going to be redesigned. And we would redesign it with these new possibilities integrated. Well, that didn't happen. Also, what didn't happen was quad LPs. We had the formats, we had SQ and QS, so forth, but there was no content. Nobody knew how to use quadrophonic. Like, what is quad? Is it to replicate the concert hall and the two front speakers are the most important, and then the two back speakers just give the back of the hall so you have a sense of space? And it's like, I'm sorry, but that's just not exciting enough. The real domain of quad, the content creator, was somebody like myself who had a quad capability built into my very instrument. So here we are 50 years later. The Buchla is still alive. The 227, which is the quad spatial module, is still here. There is, so you're definitely in an advantage. I know the Buchla is not everybody's format. And what we need to do really is to have consciousness about this and create, have the people who create our tools give us the tools that we need. So today I'm going to talk about just the way that I think in quad, that I've been, that I grew up in quad space, and what is it for, and how do you use it, and what good does it do? In my concerts now, in my live performance, when I started 5 years ago, people would say to me, oh, you can't get quad. You can't go to, Barcelona to the big, concert and ask them to give you 4 equal towers of speakers. Because people weren't playing in quad. But guess what? I got it. You can get it. If quad is your baby and that's what you need, you just hold your ground and they will get it. It's really in a transitional time right now. So let's see. I'm not used to talking wall to wall here. Laura, what am I doing?
You're doing great, Suzanne. Oh my gosh. This is wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
It would be great if we could hold for just a minute because I want to check one audio thing on your end. So folks watching will be right back in just a moment. And we're back. Yeah, so we just had to make sure that all the settings are just so that y'all can have the best experience out there. Yeah, Suzanne, I would love to hear about your Buchla, hear you maybe show us what you've got there and then hear some sounds and we could take it from there. Does that sound good?
That sounds great.
Amazing.
Okay, so this is my Buchla 200E. This is a relative of the 200 that I played in the day. And it's a bit more compact because it does have a digital element. It has a little memory. So my sequencer is, it used to be 4 panel units, is now 1. And this is wonderful for live performance because I can put it in a suitcase, the whole thing, and travel. The module that I'm going to focus on today is the 227. And I'm going to be showing you material from my concert material. So the various sections of the composition and how I think of them spatially. Another aspect of spatial illusion, we can call it, is the processing. So in the old days, Buchla actually had a voltage-controlled spring reverb. And what that did was it gave the sound the illusion of coming closer or farther away. And you could do that on a dime. I mean, you could change the distance of a sound on a note because it was voltage controlled. So it was really dynamic and also integrated into the very music, into the rhythm. Spatial movement is a rhythm. So if there are different kinds of spatial movement. The ones that we're most familiar with are the continuous ones. There is a continuous movement. There could be a circular movement. There could be an elliptical movement. Continuous movement is when the sound transfers from one speaker to another gradually. Discrete motion is when it switches from one speaker to another. And this is very much of a rhythmic identity and needs to be perfectly integrated with the music. That's why it's a good idea to generate this kind of discrete motion actually while you're playing. So some people try to quantify music after the fact, and it's very limiting to do that because, you could get an envelope detector and detect the rhythm. It's not ideal, but you need to have the sensitivity to the rhythm built into the movement. What I do today, because I don't have voltage control reverb, I use Eventide H9s. So this is my iPad, and it is Bluetoothed to my H9. I actually have 2 H9s because when I started using them, I thought, oh my gosh, I have 4 channels. I need 2 H9s because the H9 is stereo. And then I got the 2 H9s and I thought, uh-oh, how am I going to integrate these? I can't get them to behave simultaneously. And then I had the breakthrough clarity that in this type of thing, you do the signal processing, first, and then you go to the spatial processing. So because I had 2 H9s, I now use 2 spatial outputs. I have a 4. Okay, so if we look over at the 227, you can see that I have 4 outputs. And the way I have it is that each 2, let's say the 2 left ones, are married to the first H9, and the 2 right ones are married to the second H9. I'm going to show you the H9s now, too. Now, those H9s do not look entirely normal, and they are not, because they have been modified. Set up now for an ocean wave sound. So they're not blinking very much. They're rotating.
Actually, hold on a second, Suzanne. I'm not sure if we are okay. I think folks are okay. I think we are good now. Amazing. Okay, we're back. Keep going. I think folks, if you could just kind of go from the H9 at the end of the H9 segment, and then we're over here now, so we're good. Yeah.
Okay, so there are so many aspects of what goes into spatial control and design of the space that it's a little bit overwhelming. But let's just try to take it a piece at a time. First, I'm going to play you what I open my concert with is a wave. And what's appropriate space for a wave? Well, it's a slow, continuous space. So let's see if I turn this up, if you can hear. And if you look at the lights in the 227, just look here at the left two, because that's the ones we're listening to. And you can see the movement. It goes, now it's in the front left. The LEDs tell me which speaker it's in, and then it pans out to the back rear, the left rear, and the front right, and then goes to the right rear. So it's kind of an elliptical motion. And how is this accomplished? I have these two inputs to receive a control voltage, and that control voltage is simply an envelope that is cycling on itself. So it's increasing in voltage and decreasing in voltage gradually. If I were to change this and speed it up, that's just spatial movement that you're hearing. And its spatial movement creates a rhythm. Did you hear that?
I did. I think folks
okay, good.
Are hearing it. Hopefully their headphones work really well right now. I'm like, woo!
Okay. Okay, so that's spatial movement. And so here we are speeding up. It becomes an audible. But what I choose to do for that wave is a very slow, continuous motion. Okay, so that's a wave, and that's how I open my concert. And I also add the other spatial elements are the H9s. So in the beginning, with the waves, let's see if I can get this turned on. Okay, I think I need to.
A lot of wires, so a lot of cables.
Yeah, I guess I forgot to charge my Animoog, so we won't do the birds. But I add birds to this, and the birds I use a delay in the H9, so that the sound you'll hear the bird sound, and then you'll hear it delayed in a different speaker. So it's creating this very outdoor spatial theater, really. So that's the first spatial use. Then what happens? What happens is that then rhythm is introduced in the music. I won't go through the whole thing, but I'm just going to play this for you, this little pulsing that happens. Okay, I have to change the processing. This is something that I do constantly in the performance because each musical phrase has its own processing designed for it. And sometimes this has to do with the spatial perception, and sometimes it is just to enhance. We didn't have all this in the old days. I mean, we had reverb, we had voltage control reverb, but now we have everything. We have flanging, we have, delays, we have everything. Okay, so here's what happens in this. The rhythm comes in, and when I start the rhythm, I keep it in the same spatial design as the wave was. But then when I want to increase the excitement, I go to a next stage, and the only thing that's different is the spatial treatment. So now, this treatment of the rhythm is random and discrete. So it's a little bit more exciting. And I'm going to take this one down for a minute, okay? And now I'm going to show you these other two. This is the second H9. And you can see that this motion is discrete. And right now it's going in a circle. What is causing that circle? It's being caused by the input of a special sequencer. I'm going to show you the sequencer. That is 2 5-stage sequencers that I designed this little module just to control the space. So what this is doing is, when you have a voltage input, you have 2 axes. You have the front rear and you have the left right. So on this, these 2 sequences are moving in parallel. And I have the left right going low, high, high, low. And I have the rear forward going low, low, high, high. And what that results in is a circle. So low, low is A, high, low is B, high, high is C, is D, excuse me, and C. It's a little confusing because the A, B, C, D is A is front left, B is front right, C is left rear, and D is right rear. Now with these voltages, let's turn this up, we can listen. I'm going to take the effect off so that it's a little clearer. Sounds a little delayed to me. Okay, this should be just the bass. Sounds a little... Okay, maybe I lost contact here. Wait a second. I think I might have lost... Yeah, okay, it became disconnected. Okay, so let's go back to the settings and find the Bluetooth. And it says, okay, make sure that's connected. And, okay, that's the Earth Hall. Okay, I'm going to bypass it. Let's see if that still sounds the same. It sounds delayed. I don't know why it sounds delayed. Oh, well. But anyway, do you hear that it sounds delayed?
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, okay, I'm not responsible for that. Okay, but anyway, let's just say that this little subset of control, these two little sequencers, I'm just going to show you what I can do here. I'm going to change the number of stages. And that's going to change the pattern. So it's no longer going in a circle. The other thing that I can do is I can increase the transition slope so it can be smoother. So if I turn this up, notice how the lights now are very smoothly changing. And if I turn this down, it's more discrete. Okay, so let's have consciousness for a minute of discrete and gradual and what that might mean in performance. There's a myth, you know, when you say you're going to perform in quad, and I joke about this all the time. You know, I'll look at the person who's in the middle of the room and say, you've got the best spot. You know, as if there's only one ideal spot to be in, and that's the middle. Well, in reality, it doesn't work that way. And why? When you have discrete spatial motion, you have the beauty of having the sound in one speaker at a time, to some degree or another, okay? So you can control how distinct it is. But when you have discrete motion, even if you're standing in front of one speaker, what used to cause the problem is something called masking. So if the sound is continuous and you're in front of, say, the left front speaker, you won't hear the material that's coming from the other speakers. It's masked. It's masked because the sound coming out of your closest speaker is going to prevent you from hearing the other speakers. But if the sound is moving and it's discrete and it's not always in your closest speaker, you're going to hear the motion. You're going to hear it when it's across the room. So I've experimented with this a lot, and I have found, to my surprise, the quadrophonic works in almost any shape theater and, you know, brilliantly, as long as you control the spatial location in a certain way. Okay, you don't want it to be too discrete in a very, very large space. Because if it is, you're going to have a disruptive sound. You're going to hear a little bit, a tick here, just one speaker and another speaker. So what I do in large spaces is that I have a fill sound. So I have two separate outputs here of spatial location, and I use one of them, depending on the size of the space, as a kind of threshold of fill, so it's never too naked, right? But it's not enough to overwhelm the directionality by masking. Does that make sense? Are you getting this, Laura?
I am. And there are some questions in the chat. Would you mind if I just asked you a few while we're at this point here? I think a couple of folks are really, and I think I know the answer to this question because I asked you this before, but how much is pre-planned and how much is improvised in your concerts?
My concerts are, I call them improvisations on 4 sequences. So what is pre-planned? I have designed my patch so that it gives me certain options that I'm totally familiar with. It's important to have a patch that you can instinctively grab. You know, if you hear something wrong, you know exactly where it is. So you have a given patch, which is the
the communication system. Where are your oscillators going? Which filters are they in? Which envelopes go with which sound, etc. And then, once you've rehearsed a lot and have complete familiarity with your patch, you can interact with it. I do change my patch during the concert, but not, fundamentally. I'll change the control. So at one point, the sequencer is controlling the rhythm. At another point, the multiple arbitrary function generator is controlling the performance. That's a whole other conversation, the MARF, the multiple arbitrary function generator, because I don't know how people perform without that. It's like a three-dimensional sequencer, but it gives you hierarchical controls over the raw materials. I think of electronic performance as improvisation on given materials, certain materials. So my given materials are the 4 sequences that I used in the 70s, same ones. I wrote a paper called the Report to National Endowment that documented, I call it the cookbook for playing the Buchla. And when I came back to performance, I couldn't quite remember everything I did in the day. And I found this paper, and it really triggered, my comeback to these techniques that I had developed years ago. So anybody who wants to read that paper, I know it's available. It might even be on my website now. So it's an improvisation on 4 sequences. How much of it is planned? Well, you can only handle so much at a given moment. And my hands are full with playing the MARF, which is something that I do in real time. And then I have my little Animoog. I have my keyboard set up. So, I say basically it's an improvisation on a set group of materials and a patch. Does that make sense?
That does. Thank you.
Yeah.
That really great response to that question. Thank you so much. I would like to just go back a little bit, just because when you were talking about the H9s, you missed some audio there, and folks were really interested in the H9s and the modifications. And our friend Jeff in the chat had put that they're Northern Light Modular Modified H9s. So thank you, Jeff, for helping us out there, or helping me out there. But yeah, can you just kind of talk briefly about the H9s one more time?
Okay. So I have here 2 H9s, and they are Bluetoothed to 2 iPads. So with this iPad, at any moment, I can choose a processing. I've just chosen a processing. Let's see if we can get something up to hear that. I might have to put on my glasses. Here we go. Okay. Okay. Okay, so what you were hearing there, what were you hearing? Thank you to these modified H9s. Let me see if I can show this to you. I have a control voltage that's going into the H9. I have a little switch here that says control voltage or no control voltage. I have the control voltage on, and watch what happens I'll put this in front. Whoops. See if you can see that hot switch moving while this is playing. Let me start it. Okay, so what's happening there is that this hot switch is moving according to the voltage that I have given it. And that voltage is a random triggered control voltage. So I take the rhythm from the sequencer and I put it into a random voltage generator. I take the output of that random voltage and I put it into the control voltage input of this modified H9. You will not find this control voltage input on a normal H9. You need to have it modified. Now, what that does, it's right now, it's controlling the mix of this reverb. So it's going from drier to wetter. Randomly. So it's creating random motion in the three-dimensional space. Here we can look at that here. You can't really see that here. Oh well. But you saw that, right? Did you see the mix jumping, the mix knob moving?
Yeah, it's a little hard to see it, but yeah, we can see a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. When I held it up here.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a little bit of a lag on your the iPhone camera for some reason. It is working, but so folks will see it a little bit delayed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so what this is control voltage of the space of the reverb, just like we used to have in the old day. The spring reverb was voltage controlled. So I did a piece that historically that Finders Keepers just released. It was called Flowers of Evil. And in that piece, I used a lot of control voltage reverb on that, on the voice. There's a French, recitation of a poem, and the voice is moving in and out and in and out, and that's all from the voltage-controlled reverb. The closest I could come to that these days is the voltage-controlled input, the mix of the dry signal versus the wet signal. So it moves, it gets wet, gets dry, gets wet, dry, and that means it moves far away, it comes close. Moves far away, it comes close. So that's one of the ingredients in spatial control. So every part of the music has a spatial overlay that communicates the emotion of the music. So this particular piece, here's another scene. Okay. So let me just set some of these. Okay, so this is, I've gone in the performance from a very kind of, I go from a very kind of ballsy, rhythmic thing. Now I'm going to go to a very sweet sine wave. And what's appropriate for that? Okay, so let's hear this sine wave. So there is sine wave here, and I can do with the morph. And the space that I use on this is a swirl. And then I can add some random Okay, so, and what that is a swirl. So Buchla always had this built in, this little swirl button. And what I do with the swirl is that I have a control voltage on the swirl. So it's not just a steady swirl. As you can see, it's changing directions and it's changing speed. I think you can see that. I don't know if you can see that, but how is that doing? It's because in the control voltage input, I have an envelope voltage going in, and that envelope voltage is modifying the swirl. This is quite sophisticated, but it's easily understandable if you have this module. So what I'm trying to do, I did a concert recently for Moog, and I've been working on them to do a spatial interface. And I think the Eurorack community also needs to investigate. The great source for this is the Buchla. The Buchla 227 is Buchla was the Leonardo da Vinci of electronic music instrument design. He figured it out right from the beginning and dedicated his life to this. And there's so much to learn from him that was lost in a way, because the formats change. Everybody went Eurorack. It's a much more compressed. How many U's is that? 4? I don't know. And this is 5, or I don't. But so that's where, this is what I grew up in, and this is what I'd like to communicate to everybody, is what the possibilities are if you have the tool. We need the tools to do what we know we can do. Are there any? What should we do now?
Yes. We've got endless amounts of questions, but thank you for
okay.
for
Let's
that.
do it.
Lots of love for
good. I love
Jeff
questions.
is saying Dawn is missed, and our friend Patrick Gleason was here for a minute. He said hi. I actually went over to his house and talked about quad with him last year, and
great.
He and I
brilliant.
are both performing at Synthplex in October. So very excited.
You're actually gonna have a physical concert?
We'll see. I mean, it's still booked. It was supposed to be in April. So we'll see. And I'm going to be performing in quad for the first time. So I'm very excited.
Great. Well, I'd love to hear how you're handling quad. I'd love to hear.
I mean, I'm like a newborn, just scratching the surface. But I am mixing my first song right now, thanks to Kamran, our lovely mutual friend you've done a lot of work with, and he asked me to do a song, and he paired me up with another amazing artist who I became friends with, Sudan Archives. We did a song together, and I've been mixing it in quad, and I've been sending him the mixes, and he's like, you want to try this, and So anyway, I'm learning, and Adam Audio was so gracious to send me another pair of monitors so I could have matching Adams in my studio. So now I've got the whole setup and very excited about it. So maybe
Great.
I'll send it to you and get your opinion on it.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so there are a bunch of other questions. And this is a great question. How is this different from surround sound?
It isn't.
Okay.
I don't know what you call surround sound. I mean, surround sound, as far as I, understand, is something that came through the visual world, through television broadcasting, right? So you had 5-1, and you had the 5 was the vocal in the middle of the front, and then you had the 4 speakers, and you had a woofer, so the 1, you had the subwoofer. I think that the intention of 5-1 was different because it was a theatrical construct. The idea of having the voice in the center, the idea of maybe reserving the back 2 speakers for environmental effects like a car speeding by or some rumbling in the back. What you can use that system, that 5-1 system, for your content, for your quad content. But the content that I'm speaking of is really designed with space as one of the musical parameters of the music. The same way you have, pitch and rhythm and timbre and spatial motion and location and dimension. This is part of the language of electronic music. And the difference is that when you're designing the sound to move in the space, the music to move in the space, it's not an overlay. I could go do an Atmos mix of my first album, 7 Waves, and it doesn't really interest me to do that. It's like, well, so what could I do? I could put, maybe I should try it. Maybe it's not as boring as I think, but for me, the space is generated by the music at the moment that the music is born. It's not an overlay. Doesn't happen afterwards. Joseph, I'm doing an online. Okay.
Hello.
Hello. Okay. So
you have your kitty running around there too.
Yeah, I should have my kitty will start whining when it needs to. Yeah. Good. So I don't know if I answered that. I'm hoping actually, because I released my last album. The reason I haven't released a lot of material is that I'm very committed to quad. And Kamran helped me release the first album in quad. And it was very expensive. We had to include a decoder.
Yeah.
So it cost $227. All this was based on the Buchla 227, which is the spatial module that I've been showing you today. And that seemed impractical, so I did my new album. I released it only digitally. But I'm going to look into it. So there's a company in Australia called Involve Audio, and they make an encoder and a decoder based on the old SQQS encoding, decoding. And that's how we encoded the quad album. and they made the decoder, and we included it in the package. Now they sell a separate decoder, and there are also decoders that are built into a lot of equipment now because of the 5.1 and home theater interest. So I'm now planning to finally do a vinyl of the same concert, which is called Improvisation on 4 Sequences at in Geneva. In Geneva, I forget the name of the concert, but anyway, but it's tricky. It's challenging because when we went to upload the quad files, we hit barriers. You have to use FLAC files. The upload bandwidth is not that, healthy. Quad is a hungrier format. You have more data. You can always do it through specialized outlets for audiophiles who want, quad files. But to the general streaming public, it's still quite difficult. I mean, you can't stream quad in Spotify or any place else that I know of, So anyway, there's more pressure being put on the system, and there's the cat. This is
kitty.
The big fat cat that moved in. Just
it's amazing to have. As we were talking right before this, I said when we did this event last time, Suzanne brought out her pet snake, and now you've got your kitty and this Buchla.
Right.
Yeah, I know Kamran actually showed me. We hung out one time last year, and he showed me how to decode from YouTube using his plugins, and he played me Pink Floyd's Money song that was mixed in quad originally and decoded from YouTube. So I know that his plugins do that, but it was like it was revelatory for me because I was in my studio listening to YouTube, and then all of a sudden it was in quad. So I do know that there is it is possible, but and I know very little about this, but I do know that he had given me some of his plugins to encode the quad mix that I'm making so that it can be played on Spotify, but then it can be decoded. So I know that there's so much to it. I know that both of you worked tirelessly to get your record out in the format, and so it's awesome that both of you are going the extra distance to make sure that folks can hear it the way that it's intended to be heard.
Well, I know he went full throttle towards quad. After this project and maybe before, but I don't know, but I don't use, I'm in a world of analog now, so I'm the only person I know who doesn't use Ableton, and so I don't use, I haven't used his plugins, but I'm anxious to hear more about it. Involve Audio sent me their decoder, and what they can do is take any stereo input and quadify it. So that's interesting. So you can have anything turned into quad that wasn't even designed for quad. So you can take any stereo, say Spotify or YouTube, and listen to it in quad. Oh, that's great, because if you bother to get a quad set up, then you want to be able to use it even, on a daily basis for things that weren't originally quad. But, what I'm trying to do is have a already designed quad mix come out in the original quad that I wanted, not some quadification of the signal, right? So, but their box does that too. So I'm involved in them, and I think that's where I know Kamran had them do the box that we sold, the decoder. They did it in Australia, and they're on to something. But, you know, the world of quad is, you know, a mixture now, because there's not a lot of content that's designed for quad still. So the desire to make a spatialization of a non-spatialized content is there. But we also want, because we're electronic musicians, to have the beautifully designed spatial movement that we really want as part of our music. We want that to come through. Exactly.
Absolutely. I love that. Yeah, we've got a couple more questions if you're down. Great. Love it. Ryan, hey old friend, how are you? Oh, okay. I guess I gotta reload our other broadcast studio. My image went away, so I'll just ask the question while I'm reloading here. Yes, are there any software tools for spatialization that you have tried or enjoyed?
Well, yes. Software tools. There's a company right here in San Francisco called Envelop Audio, and they are really remarkable. So that is it's an open source software that is, one of the beauties of it is that you can dial it up or down to any number of speakers. So if you happen to be, at the Envelop studio and you have 40 some speakers, that's a brilliant, wonderful experience. But then if you need to dial it down to say 4 speakers, you can do that too. And I know that they use that plugin in Ableton and wherever
Surround
else.
Panner. Yeah. I know Chris Willits from Envelop, and yeah, they're doing great work, and I was hoping to visit one of their spaces. I guess after all this madness is past.
They do broadcasts like every Sunday night. And you listen with headphones through your phone or whatever. You just go online, and it's really amazing. It's really maybe it's an ambisonic, translation of what's going on, but it's really enveloping.
Yes, amazing. And thank you, Jeff, for letting me know that Synthplex has been moved to October 2021. Sounds about right. I figured. A lot of love, a lot of thanks in here. There was a couple of other questions that I want to get to. Thank you all for writing in caps, because it really helps me to see. That's one of my things to say. I don't think that you're yelling at me, but in order for me to see through all of the chat, I need it to be big. This is a great question, and sounds like someone who is a big, maybe classical music, or just a musician, someone who is writing a lot. Monty, do you think about contrapuntal ideas related to spatialization, like parallel motion, contrary, oblique, etc., with respect to melodic writing? So that's a lot to unpack there.
I should I answer?
Yes, please.
Yeah,
if you can, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I am a counterpoint. I think that this compositional tool here, this Buchla, is essentially a contrapuntal compositional tool because of the nature of it. Each of these sounds is a single line. It's a melodic line, a sequencer. My sequences, I have 4 sequences. I can play them for you. Let's see. Okay, so
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, so these are the 4 sequences that let's just put this one up. Let me put it down where it belongs. Down an octave.
Okay, now we go to B. Now we go to C and D. So what I can do through the morph, let's see if we can see the morph. What I can do with the morph, I have this one doing a random motion. Let me dial down that. I'm going to take the control voltage. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I have, this is sequence D right here. I have it on D. Here it is on A. Let me switch this program because then I'm going to show you. I'm going to play just, this is A. And now I'm going to go to, I have two oscillator outputs here. And now I'm going to move them together. So this is counterpoint. This is A and B together. This is A and C. A and D. Okay, so say I'm on A and B. And one of the techniques that I like to use is to add transpositions. So what's happening? I'm going to play you this one sequence. It's jumping. The light is jumping. Why is the light jumping? It's jumping. The sequence is playing in order because no matter what stage this goes to, it's looking at A. It's looking at sequence A, unless it goes to 1. But it's randomly choosing a different octave transposition. This is a compositional technique that is, generic to this type of instrument. So let's listen to that. So we're just listening to sequence A with a random jumping of octave here. I can make it a little more percussive. I can put in some really high notes or low notes. And now I can add in the first one. And so I have only 2 sequences going, but now I'm going to add a sustain on one of them. And I can change that. This is on B. I'm going to change it to C. And then change the rhythm of it. Now I'll go to D with sustain. And I can put all these back onto. So anyway, these are just things. These are, the fundamental materials that I'm dealing with is 4 sequences. And they are designed to work vertically, obliquely. I can access, with this Marf, if this is running. Okay, now I'm having, I can also change these. So it's gonna, now it's taking a note from all different sequences, but they're all sequences that are meant to play together. Hear that new sequence that comes out of, and that's because I have complete access to those pitches. So, yeah, it's the nature of the instrument is contrapuntal. Keyboards, which are the things that destroyed analog modular consciousness completely, was when, they put a keyboard on the instrument, and people think of keyboards as harmonic tools. It's certainly the early synth keyboards were monophonic. It took a while for there to be polyphony in a keyboard, but when the keyboard took over, people thought of it as a chordal instrument, and it is not really by nature chordal. It is contrapuntal. The analog world is contrapuntal. So yeah, if you're a composer, you're probably already doing it, but it's a wonderful tool for exploring counterpoint. But you need a Marf. You need this tool, this Buchla 248 here, and we are designing a new one. Buchla company is going to design a new one, and I encourage, other designers to explore these possibilities and make their own iteration of this tool, because it's so powerful. We need access to our raw materials.
Absolutely. Oh, wow. Thank you for that great response to that question. I was like, elevated for sure. And everyone in the chat is loving it. I'm going to do maybe one more question, and then I would love it if you could just maybe play for us for a few minutes. I was so mesmerized just now. If you could maybe just play some sounds for us for a few minutes to close out the session. Would that be all right with you?
Well, I was thinking I have one thing that is an autopilot version of this. I don't know if I can get it to go, but let me see. It requires a little patch.
Okay.
And I could just let that run. Let me see. I have to kind of get it set up. I mean, it's the same sequences, right? But it's called The Jungle.
All right.
And if I can get it set up, then we can just listen to that.
Maybe we can all just bliss out for a few minutes.
Yeah, let's see if I can get it to work. Okay.
There was a question about what you record in, and I think I can answer that because I know that it's Digital Performer. So
yeah,
I'll answer that question. Thank you all so much for being here. Isn't this amazing? so relaxed right now. This is like my dream. Hang out with Suzanne. I mean, the only thing that's better for your hanging out in person.
So this is a jungle patch. Let me get some.
Great.
Okay, so this is the jungle. These are the same sequences, but now they're sloped, and the envelope is random, repeating. And then I can that's the elephant. So this is like a automatic patch. Do you hear it? Yeah?
Oh yeah, we hear it. We're just vibing, mesmerized right now. I'm in the jungle. I think everyone's in the jungle. Beautiful.
I have a few more effects that I usually put on it that I don't have on now, but anyway, that's that.
Yes. Lots of great comments, great music to listen to at the beach. A lot of people want to hear this at an amphitheater, the ocean. Oh, this is amazing. Yeah.
Well, I am on the beach, you know.
You are.
I am. I'm on the beach, yeah.
You are. There was one last question that I wanted to get to, if that's all right with you. Yeah. This is from Jeff. What is the origin story of your four source sequences? Are there any others that ever come out to play?
The origin story of the 4 sequences is what I used to do. The original sequencer that I had was quite big. It was maybe 6 panel units, and it had a knob for every stage. So there were 16 by 4 knobs. And when I put, as I do now, I take those outputs of the sequencer and I put them into the external inputs of the MARF. And in the day, things were hard to tune, but the MARF had a quantized input. So if I put the sequences into the MARF, I could tune them very easily because they could be quantized. And so during a performance, I could actually go in and tune the pitches. That kind of interaction eventually solidified into 4 sequences that just seemed to work together. It was an evolutionary approach of just, choosing pitches and then realizing that they had their own identities as rows that worked together. And so that's how they originated. How were they frozen in a document? Believe me, I had no interest in documenting anything I did, but I got a grant from the National Endowment of the Arts as a composer grant. And to satisfy the grant, I had to write a paper. So I wrote a 40-page paper about how to play the Buchla, how to perform, because it was all about performance. It wasn't about recording. We didn't have home studios then. And, if I recorded anything, it was to a 1/4-inch 2-track. So it was all about live performance. And that paper, Report to National Endowment, is what I referred to when I came back, and there were the 4 sequences. And so I just said, okay, I'll start there, because it really is starting material. Another aspect, though, is that in this new world of analog digital, in order to perform, to have this compact instrument, my sequencer is not really performable. So I make a big distinction about, modules that are designed for live performance and those that are not. And once you have to get into a menu, it doesn't work. So when I came to the 200E, the MARF was gone. They had instead the DARF, the Dual Arbitrary Function Generator. And it was a beautiful oval-shaped sequencing device, but it wasn't performable. So I got a clone. I have a clone here of the original MARF. And we are redesigning that so that, we can now have a performable MARF. I could go on and on,
Yes.
I don't know if anybody's interested in this stuff, but, the MARF, yeah, you're looking at the MARF. The MARF is there. Okay, great.
Yay.
Yay. I went off on a tangent there.
No,
Sorry.
we love your
I
tangents.
just-
Kamran is now in the virtual building. Hello. He's in
Oh,
Berlin.
Kamran. Oh, fantastic. Yay.
Yeah, he's next to the Berlin Zoo, so he said the jungle sounds, but worked quite well.
Well, we wish we could talk to him right now,
I
But
know. Well,
yeah.
he's saying hello, and I did want to ask one last question because it's Jules's question, and Jules is the MVP here in the background, making all the things switch and making sure we look and sound good. So his question: what type of new synth modules would you like to see? Capabilities you desire that don't exist yet?
Well, my goal for synth modules is performability. I think that Buchla, had that in mind when he did the 200 series. He was all about performance. This makes sense because in those days we weren't making studio albums. We weren't in recording studios as individuals. I mean, you had to have a record deal and you had to then get a big studio. And, that didn't happen. I know Mort Subotnick got a deal and did a studio album, but most of us were focused on live performance. And so I'd like that to be the umbrella. Can you play it? Does it speak to you during performance? Does it have feedback? When I became aware that there was a whole renaissance of interest in analog modular, I started to look at what was, when I was at the Audio Engineering Society or the NAMM show, I would go and look at the new modules, and I was quite concerned because there was no feedback. What's going on inside? How do you know what's going on? I have constant feedback. The lights are telling me what's happening. That's important. So you need feedback. You need to be able to put, it's a design, conundrum in a way. Don made his instrument a little bit larger format. Why? Because he looked at the human hand the same way he made his keyboard that you can see here, not like a traditional keyboard. It's actually, shaped like a hand. So we need to go back to basics. We can't go on autopilot and just do what's been done. We need to really look from the ground up what's needed. Buchla's interface was larger because the hand needed that space to get in there. And I still find Eurorack incredibly challenging because it's so tiny. So this size works very well. The Buchla has, look at the number of lights that are in the system. It is just communicating like crazy. It has blue lights and green lights and red lights, and they all mean something else, something different. Something different, something unique. So the languaging of the inside of the machine is really important. That because when you're performing, you need to make split-second decisions. You need to know where something is. And all of these things that Buchla designed signal you. What is the rate of the random voltage? Where is the spatial motion? What stage are you on? So I'd like to see more feedback in general. I'm loving the new interfaces with the iPads. And I think there's room for that for graphic interfaces. I don't know how you integrate that into, your patch system. But as ancillary controls, for effects, as I use them, I think they're really brilliant. I can do things with this H9, for instance, when I'm doing the ocean, and I have I can actually rotate this thing. Let's see. So I have, I can't see. Let me just put on my glasses. So one of the beauties of this instrument is that I have an XY pad. And the XY pad, I don't think you can see this. I don't know if you can see this. Can you see this? I can tilt this. Okay. It's got a lot of reflection. But I can tilt the iPad interface for my H9 effect, and I can modify, the experience of that effect just physically dancing to the, what I want to happen. I can't show you that now because it's a very quad thing. So anyway, I'd like to see that kind of integration. I use I love the Animoog, the keyboard.
All right.
Yeah, the fact that I can, design the keyboard. This sound, by the way.
Wow.
It's moving. This little tiny iPad. I played once, I remember in Barcelona, and I hit that bass note, and thousands of people cheered. And I thought, this is absurd. That bass note is coming from my iPad, and it's, being pumped into this huge space on these gargantuan speakers. And it's like, it defies concept, How does that little iPad do that? So I think there are a lot of mystical things that are going on right now in instrument design, and it is basically an electronic world that we're living in. So that's good for us. That's good for us. The fact that our speaker systems and our sound is all electronic now, that's good for us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, well, I have something that might look a little familiar with me. My Sensal Morph.
Yes,
Buchla
there
Thunder.
it is.
Yes. Yeah, shout out to Sensal for making this, and we actually collaborated on a sample library that is specifically for these devices. So it's on their website. You can find it there. But yeah, there's all kinds of new things that are coming out. But yeah, when you played that Animoog, I was like, I think myself and a lot of people in the chat were like, wow,
Right.
this sounds really big, and that's like I don't know how much it costs, $20 or whatever.
Yes, like nothing.
Yeah.
And the key, here's the beauty of the Animoog too.
Yeah.
You can choose your keyboard scale very easily. So you can make it so that you can only hit the keys you want. And here's a lead sound.
And I'm like, wow, I bought a sub 37 and
Yeah. Well, the Moog bass is legendary. And they can get it out of anything. They can do it with an iPad. But anyway, I'm trying to get Moog. I did a concert. I was saying this before. I just did a performance at the opening of the Moog Museum at Cornell University. The Moog always allows me to play the Buchla
and that's why I love them. And the guy came up to me afterwards because he experienced the quadrophonic performance. And he said, gee, let's get on, let's do that. So I haven't bugged them about it, but I think quad consciousness is, has the potential of entering into our, major design sources. And once we have those tools, we're just going to be joyously using them.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's incredible where we are at with technology. And obviously in your career and your storied career, you've seen so many things and you've been at the forefront of this for so long. You're an inspiration for all the people in the chat. So many people all over the world. We're just honored and just thrilled that you accepted my proposal to join us today. And so, just imagine that all the people in the chat are clapping right now and cheering, because they are. I'm going to clap for you. Yay. That was wonderful. Thank you so much, Suzanne. It was such an honor.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Laura. You're an inspiration to me.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for
thank you
doing
so
everything
much, Suzanne.
you do. Thank you,
pleasure.
Jules.
So good.
Thank you for everything.
Thank
did
you.
Great. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
You've done for everybody out here. We love and respect you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lots of love. And so I'm gonna sign off with the folks. I'm gonna let you go backstage, Suzanne, but hang on for a second so we can wrap up. And I'm just gonna close out out the session today. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you in a second. Okay. Oh my gosh! Wow, that was amazing. Just mind blowing, as I knew it would be, and I'm just so thankful that everything worked. And because there's been some challenges, as you heard with Suzanne and the fires, and internet, and Jules has thunderstorms going on, and we were thinking of all the things, all the redundancy. Those of you that go to Master Track and are involved in playback know we got to have redundancy. We're just trying to think of all the ways. And so I'm really thankful that it went as smoothly as it did today. I'm very thankful for all of you being here. Just wanted to remind you about the contest, Transmute from Home. Definitely enter if you're thinking about want to win some of those prizes, because there's a lot of prizes to win. Shout out to our sponsors once again, Universal Audio, Eventide, Native Instruments, Output, and Artifon. And also shout out to Razer for sending me a laptop to use with my Unreal setup that y'all are going to see tomorrow. So tomorrow we have a double header. We've got Ruby Mountain, who is a graduate of the Transmute Accelerator. She's going to be performing and speaking at 11 o'clock, the same time, Pacific, 11 PDT. And then I will be performing and speaking at noon PDT tomorrow. So hopefully you can make it again. I see a lot of the same faces day after day. Screen faces, names, whatever. So thank you all for being here live, but if you can't watch it live, there will be a replay. And I encourage you all, if you like what you see here and you want to dive deeper into developing your own live performance setup and learning about all the technology and taking it beyond where you're at now, check out my Transmute Accelerator program at Transmute Accelerator. Transmute is really about an application there that you can fill out if you're interested in joining us. We start in September. And just imagine the Netflix of live performance. We've got over 20 hours and counting of videos. And so we're really just excited that 4.0 is upon us. And it's gonna be awesome. There's a lot of people here in the chat that have already applied, and a couple that have already joined us. And so definitely fill out your application soon, because we will fill up. We do have a coupon for those of you that are with us, $500 off. So definitely, if you're with us here at Transmute Your Artistry this week, you can get a discount on joining us, and you will get to hang out with myself and Jules. Who is the mastermind behind the curtain here? You want to kind of come out and say hi, Jules?
What's up, everybody?
Hey.
What's up, Laura? Wow, what a day.
What a day.
Suzanne is just the best. What a
Amazing.
legend. She's been one of my personal heroes for as long as I've been, aware of synthesizers and the history behind all this, the waves that we surf here, proverbially. So what an honor. Thank you.
Yeah, it's definitely an honor. And, I'm looking forward to Transmute 4.0. Jules was in Transmute 1.0 and graduated and became my right hand for all things Transmute. And just as we're both constantly researching and learning the most next level live performance tips and tricks, and all the live streaming stuff we've incorporated into Transmute. And so it's been interesting because we've been doing this for about 2 years before any of this pandemic hit. And so it's been interesting for us because we've actually gotten to put a lot of the things that we've learned into practice here and share them with all of you. So this is, I'm just excited because
coast to coast redundant streams. Learn about them at Transmute Accelerator, y'all.
Exactly. Learn about what Jules is doing behind the scenes on this stream. I mean, we've leveled up so much just with the production of all this. I'm very thankful that Jules is in his control room there, as you can see.
My broadcast truck. Just picked this up casually. Had to make it happen.
Yes. So thank you all so much for being here. I hope to see you tomorrow. We hope to see you tomorrow for the last day. Definitely carve out a couple hours because it's going to be, it's going to be good stuff with Ruby and myself. So thank you all so much for being here. Much love. Continue transmuting. See you soon. Peace. Transmute is really about the reimagination of your music to have the freedom to perform exactly the way you've dreamed of. In this journey, you are going to be reimagining your songs from the studio and creating a captivating performance with it. We will be conceptualizing your show, designing your rig, and putting it all together to create a show-ready project in just 8 weeks.
The main reason that I was even able to take advantage of this course is that it's fully online.
It'll definitely push you, and it'll push you out of your comfort zone.
Throughout the program, I will be providing you with inspiration as you learn the tools and techniques to level up your live show. This is for you if you want to take control of your career and gain a newfound sense of creative freedom.
I wanted to have a show that I could do myself, and I wanted it to be full and cool and an experience. I wanted to add visuals and bring the productions to life.
I'm so excited for you to join the Transmute Accelerator and start this journey with me.